Welcome back to Accessible Gourmet. Today I'm doing my version of chicken and waffles by making it a Korean chicken and scallion waffle. So to start this dish, I am just breaking down 3 chicken breasts. You can definitely use the thighs if you prefer dark meat, but I'm just using what I have. So I'm just chopping these up into nice big chunks. And once that's all nicely chopped up, I am going to put this into a bowl and then just pour over enough buttermilk just to coat the chicken. This is going to help kind of break down the chicken a little bit and keep it tender and moist when we go to fry it. So to the buttermilk, I need to add 2 tablespoons of a light soy sauce, as well as 1 tablespoon of a good Dijon mustard. Now you can definitely go in there with a spoon or a spatula and mix this up, but I like to go in with my hands. So to avoid cross-contamination, I'm just putting on some disposable kitchen gloves before I get in there and really mush this around and make sure everything is coated and incorporated. And then we're going to set this aside and let it marinate for at least a half an hour up to overnight. For the actual dredge part of the chicken, I am adding 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour to a dish, adding 3 tablespoons of Korean chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and just mixing this up and setting it aside until we're ready to dredge our chicken. For the scallion waffles, I have 4 scallions here, chopping off the root end, but leaving about 1 inch to add to my little scallion garden so I never have to buy scallions from the grocery store again. And then I'm just taking those scallions, chopping them in half, and giving them a nice little choppity chop. I am going to use the bottoms and the tops of these scallions because that bright green is absolutely beautiful. I'm going to use half of the bright green in the waffle mix and leaving half to garnish our chicken and waffles. We're just going to give these a nice chop and set them aside in a bowl until we're ready to add them to our waffle batter. Again, just doing the same with the greens, throwing half in a bowl and putting half in a separate bowl to reserve for a garnish. Now for the actual batter itself, I have 2 room temperature eggs. It is important that these eggs are room temperature. If you get any shell into your that falls in, use your actual shell to move it, scoop it out. It's the easiest way to remove an eggshell. To the eggs, I'm adding in 1/2 cup of neutral oil and giving this a really good whisk to make sure it's really well incorporated before I add in 1.5 cups of whole milk. To this, we're also going to add 1/3 cup of toasted sesame, 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, 1/8 teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice, 1/8 of Szechuan powder, 1/8 of white pepper, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and then we're going to add 2 cups of all-purpose flour, as well as 1 tablespoon of baking powder. That is a lot of ingredients, but this is for our waffle mix. It is going to be lumpy, just like a pancake batter, but that's okay. That's the nature of pancake and waffle batters. We're also going to add in 3/4 cup of our chopped scallions, and then I just kind of popped this in the fridge once it was all mixed, just to keep it cold until we're ready to make our waffles. Now every Korean fried chicken needs a sauce, so I have 2 teaspoons of Dijon. I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of gochujang, which is that chili Korean paste, as well as 1/2 teaspoon of sesame oil and 1 teaspoon of honey. You can add 1 teaspoon of soy sauce to this to make it a little saltier, a little bit more savory, but I think that Dijon adds enough tang, as well as the gochujang adds in a little nice spicy heat to it, that I'm going to leave the soy sauce out. You've watched me fry Korean fried chicken numerous times, so we're going to go through this really quick. So the fried chicken, we are doing a double dredge on it. So I'm taking it out of the buttermilk, rolling it in the flour, dipping it back in the buttermilk, and rolling it back in the flour before I put it into oil at 350 degrees. And we're going to fry this for 5 to 7 minutes. Then we're going to remove it to a paper towel lined sheet or plate. And you know me, I always double fry, and you have to with Korean fried chicken. So once everything is fried, we're going to add all of it back to the oil and cook it for 2 to 3 minutes, and then put it back on our paper towel lined sheet. Now I couldn't justify buying a waffle maker for this recipe, so I settled on this waffle iron that you can do right over the stove. It's cast iron, it's non-stick, and it was pretty cheap on Amazon. So I'm adding in my waffle batter, closing it down, and because I've never actually made this on the stove before, I kept checking it, but it takes about 3 to 5 minutes per side depending on how high your heat is. I had it on medium-low, but I moved the heat up to medium because it cooked it a little faster. So once our waffles are made and nicely golden, we're going to set these on a plate. And then I am using a little miso butter. I made this by combining 1 part miso to 1 part unsalted butter because miso is salty enough. Then we're laying on our beautiful little chicken pieces. Drizzling on our sauce, our gochujang sauce. We're just going to add this lovely, tangy, spicy bite to our chicken. And then on the top of all of that, I've made a little hot honey, which is just 2 parts honey to 1 part sriracha. This is a great condiment for chicken fingers, for anything, for this chicken and waffles especially. And just slather that all over the top. And then we're going to garnish with that beautiful, vibrant chopped scallion. And there it is, my version of a chicken and waffles. I hope you try to make it. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you loved it, subscribe because I put out new videos every Thursday. Until next time, happy cooking.